Yes. Hello everyone. In my last video, Skull the Journey Begins. We started our journey with knowing the entity where our mind lies, our brain lies, right? Our face lies. So we elaborately discussed about neurocranium and viscerocranium. Continuing this journey forwards, coming to the first milestone, we want to now cut open the skull. So we have cut open the skull and we have removed the skull cap or vault, and we try to observe what is there inside our skull. Okay, what do we see? We see that there is a big foramen, and let us enter the skull from below. If we enter through this foramen, the largest one at the base of the skull called as foramen magnum, then we can definitely go on the slide up and then jump into another pit and then jump further forwards. So in this way we realize that the interior of the skull is basically demarcated as the three stairs. So going from below, this is the posterior cranial fossa. Jumping up, here this is the middle cranial fossa. Jumping more upwards, this is the anterior cranial fossa. So these are the three fossae we see as we open up the skull. We will begin with our learning of anterior cranial fossa first. For that, we should have a precise idea that what exactly are the margins of anterior cranial fossa, right? For that, let us quickly constitute the anterior cranial fossa. For constituting anterior cranial fossa, I will place the frontal bone here, and more posteriorly I will place the sphenoid bone here. Do you get it? I will place the sphenoid bone here. So what is the extent of the anterior cranial fossa? The extent of anterior cranial fossa anteriorly is marked by the anterior margins of the frontal bone, the orbital plates of the frontal bone, limited by the elevation in the midline on the frontal bone. This is the frontal bone, the elevation in the midline of the frontal bone. This elevation, any elevation has specific name. Here this is crest like elevation, belongs to frontal bone, so it is called as frontal crest, right? So it is limited by the frontal crest in the midline anteriorly. Posteriorly, the anterior cranial fossa is limited by the sphenoid bone. Which part of the sphenoid bone? Now here we need to know a few facts about the sphenoid bone before we describe the posterior margin of the anterior cranial fossa. So before moving forwards, I will explain you the sphenoid bone, a few important parts. This is the frontal bone falling, making a sound. Okay, so this is the sphenoid bone. Let us identify the same thing. Here I overlap this bone here, where it is articulating with the orbital plates of the frontal bone. Okay, I will remove the skull and focus again on the parts of the sphenoid bone. What are the parts of the sphenoid bone? It is like a butterfly, little beautiful butterfly, a bone, single bone, situated in the midline in the depths of the skull. It has a body just like a butterfly, and it has two wings the lesser wings and the greater wings. These are the greater wings. It also has, this is a superior view. This is a superior view. Let us now see the inferior view. Right? These are the greater wings. These are the greater wings. More posteriorly here, this is the pterygoid plate, lateral pterygoid plates and medial pterygoid plates. Pterygoid plates. This is the inferior aspect of the body. And within the body of the sphenoid is sphenoidal air sinus. If we see the superior view of the body, actually I should show you the other way. Now here, if we see the superior view of the body of the sphenoid bone, we realize that again there are a few steps. You jump here, go up, go up. There are few steps. Let us identify the terminologies, medical terminologies for the same. A demonstration, depiction diagram I have made for this. Let us see. This is the lesser wing on either side. These are the lesser wings. These are the greater wings on either side. You can see that these are the greater wings on either side. Identify the gap between the lesser wing and greater wing. Right? My wire is going through it. And this part will articulate with the parietal bone. Okay? Let me keep it. Let me keep it the way it is here. Okay? Now I'll turn it and I'll keep it like this. So you realize this is the lesser wing. Here these are the greater wings in the middle cranial fossa. Lesser wings are in the anterior cranial fossa. And in this gap here articulates the parietal bone. Articulates the parietal bone. This is the parietal bone. Understood? And here lies an important venous channel that is called as sphenoparietal sinus. Okay? Often we are confused where is the location, parietal or sphinous. So lesser wing of sphenoid के lateral portion जो parietal bone से articulate करता है वहाँ पे होता है sphenoparietal sinus. When we will see the venous the bodies within the skull, we will learn about them in detail. But right now I thought I will just mention it because this is often a confusion and bothering students. So we were talking about the sphenoid and we were talking about the steps on the sphenoid. So first between the lesser wings, now we are going down at the steps. Okay, so we jump here. This is called as jugum sphenoidale. Okay, sphenoidale, jugum sphenoidale. Here is the spelling of jugum sphenoidale. Now the anterior margin of the jugum sphenoidale will articulate with the ethmoid bone, cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Do I want to show you the same thing in the skull? See here. This is jugum sphenoidale. Okay, between the two lesser wings. The lesser wings will articulate with the orbital plates of the frontal bone. Okay, and the jugum sphenoidale in the middle will articulate with the posterior margin of the ethmoid, cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. So this is jugum sphenoidale, the first step. Okay, now we jump below. From the jugum sphenoidale, we go to the second stair. This is jugum sphenoidale. I go to the second stair. What is this called as? Just below the jugum sphenoidale, this is called as sulcus chiasmaticus. What it is called as? Sulcus chiasmaticus. Chiasma refers to optic chiasma. Okay, sulcus chiasmaticus. And below that we jump to the next stair, the lowermost stair, and that is called as sella turcica, where your pituitary gland lies. Okay, so if I tell you that the posterior margin of anterior cranial fossa are formed by posterior margins of the lesser wings. Yes, now we are able to identify them. Anterior clinoid processes, these two projections from the lesser wings of sphenoid are called clinoid processes, to which tentorium cerebelli is attached. Do not get disturbed by these terminologies, because these will come up slowly and slowly in the videos, and we will reveal all the mysteries. For now, you just remember that these are anterior clinoid processes. And the posterior margin of anterior cranial fossa is marked by the posterior margins of the lesser wings of sphenoid, the clinoid processes, anterior clinoid processes, and the anterior margin of sella turcica, एंटीरियर मार्जिन ऑफ सेला टर्सिका. तो ये जो है, दिस इज द डिफाइंड margin of the anterior cranial fossa. So now you are very clear about the posterior limits of anterior cranial fossa, and more posteriorly will begin the middle cranial fossa, about which we will see later. Okay, now I want to remind you that, see, in the last video we had seen the ethmoid bone. I just told you, see, this is the ethmoid bone. Quick recall of the ethmoid bone. See, I have kept it in the cotton. You know, we save it like special delicate jewels. Okay, so this is the correct position of the ethmoid bone. This is the correct position of the ethmoid bone. This is crista galli. This is the cribriform plate. These two cuboidal things are the labyrinths. Within these labyrinths are the ethmoidal air cells, anterior, middle and posterior ethmoidal cells. Let us flip it and see from below. What do we have in the center? We have the perpendicular plate which dips down into the nasal septum. Okay, and on either side we have the labyrinths, the lateral portion of which goes into the bony orbit, and the medial portion, what does it have? It has the, let us see, I will remove the web of the cotton first and then I will show you. Okay, it has the medial wall, has the superior concha and the middle concha. Under the superior concha, superior meatus, how delicate, see, and middle meatus. Okay, holding it again in the normal anatomical position, keeping the crista galli anteriorly, cribriform plate superiorly. They do not ask you in the questions now. They have removed it from your syllabus, and I wonder that how, without knowing the real anatomy of these small bones, you can understand the overall anatomy. So it is important to understand this. Okay, so as I told you that, how will this articulate? This will articulate like this. Okay, so you have jugum sphenoidale, the anterior margin of which will articulate with the posterior margin of the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Here, I will show you the same thing here now. Okay, see, I will overlap it. This will dip down and this will go like this now. Okay, here is the location. Same thing, jugum sphenoidale articulates with the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Okay. So now we are ready to learn about what are the foramens in the anterior cranial fossa. I will be showing you the foramens from the inner aspect of the skull. We will learn the foramens, and all the foramens which we learn about, there are a few things which we will have to recall at the end. Recall the location of each foramen, recall the structures passing through each foramen, and recall the clinical anatomy. Since we have to apply this knowledge in our future, when we become clinicians, surgeons, So we need to know the whole story of the structures and what are the clinical implications. So we will be talking accordingly. Let us see what are the foramens in the anterior cranial fossa. Anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramens. Cribriform foramens at the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. And foramen cecum. Let us see the location of these foramens first. Location. I will start with foramen cecum, then I will talk about the cribriform plate, and then I will talk about the location of anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramens. Let us see the skull now. Okay. Foramen cecum. Cecum, as the name suggests, is a blinded foramen. That is, it has only one opening towards the interior of the skull. What is the location? The location is at the frontoethmoidal suture. Now I am putting my pointer at foramen cecum. And to be more precise, I am putting a copper wire, very thin copper wire, into this foramen. Okay, you want to see that? Look here. So that is the foramen cecum at frontoethmoidal suture, where the frontal bone ossifies at ethmoid bone, the line of suture. Next, anterior ethmoidal foramen, where it is located? Just behind the crista galli. Identify the crista galli. And this is the anterior ethmoidal foramen. Anterior ethmoidal foramen. We'll see further details. I'll show you. And where is the location of posterior ethmoidal foramina? They are located at the posterolateral ends of the cribriform plate, somewhere here. They are located at the posterolateral ends of the cribriform plate. And this is the cribriform plate through which the olfactory nerves from the roof of the nose. This is the nose. From the roof of the nose through the cribriform plate, the olfactory nerves enter into the skull. This is the cribriform plate. So these are the locations of the foramen present in the anterior cranial fossa. Next, we have to know the structures passing through these foramina. As I told you, through the cribriform plate, the olfactory nerves pass from the roof of the nose into the skull at anterior cranial fossa. Through foramen cecum. Through the foramen cecum, usually it is blinded. Only sometimes an emissary vein passes from the roof of the nasal cavity through this foramen and drains into the superior sagittal sinus. This is only sometimes. What about anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramina? Through the anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramina, anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves and vessels pass. Now this much information, that is location and the structures passing through the foramina, is very nicely given in all your textbooks. But what we are interested in? We are interested in the story of these structures. Especially, I want to tell you about these anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves, which will keep bothering you in the anatomy of nasal cavity, in the anatomy of paranasal sinuses, in the innervation of meninges. Everywhere they will keep on bothering you. So let us know their story here in the anterior cranial fossa itself. Before I start the story of the ethmoidal nerves, you need to know a few things, few facts, which are around these areas. First fact I want you to know is that there is a fifth cranial nerve which is called as trigeminal cranial nerve, the ganglion of which lies in the middle cranial fossa. Don't go into the detail of that. I'll straight away show you the picture. Okay, so the first fact which I want you to know is that this is the trigeminal ganglion, fifth cranial nerve. Now this fifth cranial nerve, as seen here, first let us see the flow chart. Okay, let us see the flow chart. This is the fifth cranial nerve. इसके 3 divisions होते हैं, V1, V2, V3. उनके क्या नाम होते हैं? ठीक है, इसके 3 बच्चे हैं, उसके क्या नाम है? ऑफ्थैल्मिक नर्व, मैक्सिलरी नर्व, मैंडिबुलर नर्व. अब ऑफ्थैल्मिक नर्व मेरा कंसर्न है अगर मैं इथमॉइडल नर्व्स की कहानी पे पहुंचना चाहती हूं तो. सो ऑफ्थैल्मिक नर्व को मैं फॉलो करूंगी. दिस इज द ट्राइजेमिनल गैंग्लियन इन द मिडल क्रेनियल फोसा. We will see when we will read about middle cranial fossa. Today I am interested in the ophthalmic nerve. Ophthalmic nerve, as the name suggests, is directed towards the eye, and hence it will enter the bony orbit through its apex. And at the apex of the bony orbit, there are a few foramina. And we will see those foramina. For now, remember that the ophthalmic nerve will enter through superior orbital fissure. Now let us see these foramina. ये कभी ना कभी तो आने ही वाले हैं आगे. इस कहानी में सम्मिलित होके, इस कहानी का पार्ट होके, हिस्सा होके अभी ही हम लर्न कर लेते हैं. You are looking at the base of the bony orbit. And now I am pointing to the foramina which are present towards the apex of the bony orbit. This foramen is called superior orbital fissure. This foramen is called optic foramen. And this fissure is called inferior orbital fissure. You want to see the same things in the skull? I'll show you the same things in the skull. Okay, let us see these things again. You are looking at the base of the bony orbit. In the depths, I take you to the apex of the bony orbit. Above here, this is the superior orbital fissure. Yes? Just up on the upper part of the medial broad end of the superior orbital fissure, there is a optic canal. Okay, optic canal. And now this is the inferior orbital fissure. Okay, the same picture. Okay, this is the same picture. So we saw these foramina in the bony orbit, and now this is the trigeminal ganglion. The trigeminal ganglion has 3 main divisions: V1, V2 and V3. I am interested in V1, right? The ophthalmic division. The ophthalmic division will enter the bony orbit through the superior orbital fissure. Now you can very well understand. This ophthalmic division again has 3 daughters. That's a trend in the family. Trigeminal, 3 daughters. Ophthalmic, 3 daughters. Who are they? Frontal. Frontal, I will not talk about it. I'll talk about it later. Lacrimal, just remember the name. And here comes the hero of today, nasociliary branch of ophthalmic nerve. You want to see this on the real skull? Let me show you. Let me show you. But this is the other sided story. That is the other sided. Let us consider that this is the trigeminal ganglion. Okay, this wire mesh is the trigeminal ganglion. It has 3 daughters. I'm not interested in V2, that is maxillary. I'm not interested in V3, that is mandibular. I am interested in the ophthalmic division, which enters the superior orbital fissure and appears in the bony orbit. Okay, consider before it divides into its divisions or its branches. Okay, now here in the bony orbit, nasociliary nerve will divide into 3 branches. One is frontal. Let us pick this up. This is frontal. Okay, this is frontal. Go to the frontal bone. Not interested for here. And I will hold it like this. And let us see this green branch. This is lacrimal. It will go to the lacrimal gland in your lacrimal fossa. आपको पता है ना, आंसू मीडियल साइड से निकलते हैं, लेकिन उसका टैंक यहाँ पे है, सुपेरोलैटरली इन योर बोनी ऑर्बिट, एंड दिस नर्व intends to go to that area, that is lacrimal nerve. And the third, the hero of today's session, that is the nasociliary nerve. That यहाँ पे मेरे को एक और वायर नहीं मिला, तो वो मैं तुम्हें यहाँ दिखा रही हूँ, इस कट सेक्शन में दिखा रही हूँ, nasociliary nerve. Now see guys, the nasociliary nerve. So here this is the nasociliary nerve, a branch of the ophthalmic nerve. And today I want you to take home this lesson, that the ethmoidal nerves, anterior as well as posterior, are the branches of ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. They are given in the bony orbit and they pass through the anterior and posterior foramens within the bony orbit. So identify the anterior ethmoidal nerve. This, okay, this is the anterior ethmoidal branch of the nasociliary nerve. Identify the posterior ethmoidal nerve, guys. This is the posterior ethmoidal branch of the I'll hold the nasociliary nerve. So here begins the story of anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves. As they enter these foramina, I want to tell you here, this is important. Locating the entry point of anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves is important for an ENT surgeon. Which bony landmark is used? Bony landmark used is the lacrimal crest. What lacrimal crest? I have told you, this is the nasal bone, right? Let me take a pen. These are the nasal bones, right? I write N here. How do we write N? Okay. Nasal bone. This is the frontal process of the maxillary bone. And here, this is the lacrimal crest of the frontal process of maxillary bone. From the lacrimal crest, anterior ethmoidal nerve is at a distance of 24 millimeters and posterior ethmoidal nerve in the bony orbit is at a distance of 36 millimeters. Now this is something which we have to remember. So now the story has begun. The story of ethmoidal nerves has begun in the bony orbit as the branches of nasociliary nerve. आगे क्या होगा, क्या कोर्स रहेगा इसका, पहले हम समझते हैं और फिर देखते हैं. See this picture. Now this is the coronal section. Okay, here we realize that the story began in the orbit where the anterior ethmoidal nerve passes through a foramen, and now as it will enter medially, it will land up in the ethmoidal paranasal sinuses. Okay, so they will give a branch to the ethmoidal paranasal sinuses. Here I want to tell you that anterior ethmoidal nerve innervates the anterior and middle ethmoidal cells, while posterior ethmoidal nerve innervates posterior ethmoidal cells and sphenoidal air sinus. Okay, and after innervating the second destination, second point of halt will be here, where they will supply ethmoidal nerves, and now they will pierce the cribriform plate and enter the skull. So this is the third point of halt. As they enter the skull, they have to innervate something. They will have a purpose. What do they innervate? They innervate the meninges here. Okay, halt here and look at the next picture, and then we will proceed the journey. So here you go. You have the area of the meninges. When it enters the skull through the cribriform foramen, these ethmoidal nerves will innervate the meninges here. So this area is innervated by the ethmoidal nerve. बहुत बारीक लिखा है, मैं पढ़ देती हूँ तुम्हारे लिए. Anterior meningeal branches of ethmoidal nerve, anterior ethmoidal nerve, posterior ethmoidal nerve. Okay, so it will give the meningeal branches here as it passes through the cribriform plate. Go back to the third halt. The purpose is over. Meningeal branches have been given, and again it will go out of the skull. Purpose is over. Again it will pierce the cribriform plate, and where it will land, the fifth destination, it will land into the nasal cavity. As it enters the nasal cavity, it will give branches, nasal branches. They are called internal and external nasal branches. Internal nasal branches will supply both septum as well as the lateral wall, while the external nasal nerve will come out at the junction of the nasal bone and the cartilage, and will supply the dorsum of the nose here. Okay, so that is the whole course of the ethmoidal nerves. So by now, let us recollect: trigeminal nerve, ophthalmic nerve, nasociliary nerve, ethmoidal nerves, and the whole course and branches of ethmoidal nerves. Grab it in your mind. Here you go. Through the superior orbital fissure enters the ophthalmic nerve and gives the nasociliary nerve. It gives the ethmoidal branches which innervate ethmoidal sinuses, give meningeal branches, enter the nasal cavity, and give internal and external nasal branches. That's the whole story of the ethmoidal foramens and the ethmoidal nerves, which are main constituent passing. Do not forget the vessels, but I was interested in nerves, telling you the nerves first. We have already seen this diagram. Okay, so this is about the anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves. With regards to clinical anatomy, here we have learnt the location of these foramina. We have learnt the structures passing through these foramina. Regarding the clinical anatomy, I told you that with anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramens, that where do we actually measure the entry point of the anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves with respect to the lacrimal crest. With regards to foramen cecum, I want to tell you that sometimes when it is patent, it gives rise to a condition which is called as, when I show you a picture, you get a visual memory. So, patent foramen cecum can give rise to nasal dermoids and nasoethmoidal encephaloceles. It looks like this, just like a pimple and an elevated nose. नाक टेढ़ी हो गई है उसकी, but it may be an underlying patent foramen cecum leading to a dermoid. Okay, so investigations matter. What matters is your ability to differentially diagnose, the basis of which is anatomy and clinical anatomy. Thank you so much.